So now we're going to move into the Q&A session, which is where everybody's going to have the opportunity to post any questions that they want to ask in the comments. And we're going to hear more from our speakers. So first of all, thank you so much, guys. Those speeches were fantastic. I know that it takes a lot of effort to put a 7-minute speech together, and it can also be super nerve-wracking speaking in front of so many people, but you all did a fantastic job and we really, really appreciate it. So I want to kick things off by talking a bit about understanding your strengths. So that's something that I think Charlotte and Em both touched on in your talks. I think one of the difficulties that SDRs have, and certainly a lot of SDRs that I speak to, is where do you actually start when you go on the quest to understand what your strengths are, and how do you get to a place where you really have a clear understanding of what you're good at and what you need to work on? So have you got any advice for any SDRs that want to understand what their strengths are but feel overwhelmed by that process and don't know how to actually start with that process?
Is this just for Charlotte, or could I just jump in?
All of you, yeah, for
Perfect.
anyone.
I was just going to say, like, as Charlotte said, I think, like, you can break it down by just looking through your emails, through your call logs and things like that, and determine what worked in that way. But also, like, ask your teammates, ask your manager, ask everyone, because I know that, like, throughout our team, everyone's got like one kind of strength, like in particular, that stands out to us, and it tends to be the same across the team. Like, if you say, oh, what do they do well, everyone will be like, oh, LinkedIn. It kind of, if that's like their key kind of strength, like it will kind of be highlighted within
the obvious
the team.
Yeah.
I think it kind of comes a lot with being your authentic self, as Kelly was saying. Like, when we go into sales, we're scared because, you know, we're the junior guys coming into the business, and there's so many guys above us, and we're taught to work in a certain way, to everyone's saying to structure your emails in a certain way and do your calls in a certain way. And I think as you get more confident with that, you're a bit more relaxed to start trying things out yourself and start putting your personal twist onto things. And I think as you do that more and more, it's a bit of a journey of allowing yourself to do that, but also then learning what you're really good at. Like, when I was a BDR, my thing was always writing a story when I was writing an email to like these big corporations and getting meetings, and I'd like write this ridiculous story. My first email would always get a meeting. But when I went into sales, I wasn't encouraged to work like that and told that everything I did was a really long email. But, you know, sometimes it works, and I think you just have to be brave enough to kind of to find that, and it comes in time.
Okay, awesome. And personalization is something as well that's a very hot topic at the moment. I think, Amy, you saw my LinkedIn post earlier. And I think that comes with the different channels, obviously, that SDRs can use. There's so many now that you can use to reach out to prospects. Have you got any advice for the SDRs on this call of how to manage those different channels, and also a bit of insight into what ones you use the most? So are you mainly calling prospects? Are you mainly using LinkedIn, email? How would you say that you divide those up?
I mean, for me, like, I know that emails work quite well for me, so I kind of had a decent focus on that. But in our team, even we would do cold call blitzes, so we increased that, and I think all of us saw quite a quick return on that. And I personally have found that, like, cold calls, but then information being passed along or following up with an email, and that email being passed along recently, that has been kind of what's booked like a good chunk of my meetings. So it's like that multi-threading piece, trying to use each different channel to the best of its ability and not neglect one.
And how much time do you guys actually spend on LinkedIn?
Too much.
And how important is having a LinkedIn strategy to you?
I think you need to build your personal brand. I always thought that was really important, and it helped me massively. My first year, most of my outbound stuff came from LinkedIn. But like I said, like I just think there's a line with it, and you don't want to get too obsessed with it. Like I found myself flicking backwards and forwards from it a lot, so I do delete the tab and work. But LinkedIn is so important. But it's like what Amarni said earlier, like you need those multiple channels in your sequence because some prospects react in different ways to others. You might not have phone numbers for some people. Some people just don't answer their phone. But yeah, I think for me personally, phone calling and LinkedIn, but all three of them deliver for different people. So
I would
I'd
agree with that. Oh, sorry.
Sorry, I was just going to add, I would 100% agree with that. I think the best outreach I've ever gotten, because on LinkedIn, people like the post and comment on posts that they're genuinely interested in, whether it be personal or professional, the best outreach I get is people saying, hey, Charlotte, I saw you like this post. Funny that you liked it because actually HighSpot helps you do X, Y, Z, right? So like actually going into the prospect's activity and seeing, the comments and the like posts is probably as relevant as like an outreach method can get.
Okay. And Amarni, you talked about personalization, and with regards to researching prospects ahead of getting in touch with them, where would you advise SDRs to start with that?
I don't think there's any kind of perfect place to start. The way that I like to do, obviously, I said I like to kind of set a timer because there's, especially the companies that I target, there's so much information out there. You can very easily get overwhelmed. I think your usual places are always, LinkedIn, on their website, any of the posts that they've recently done, what kind of content are they engaging with. But I also like to kind of personalize based on the actual person rather than just the company. Having a look at their Twitter is a really, really, really good place to kind of see the slightly more informal stuff that might make them go, oh, okay, I'll have a quick look at that email. They've done their research. So I think looking across all of those channels, just try not to get sort of too overwhelmed by all the information. That's why I think setting the timer is such a good thing, because you're almost there like, okay, I know I need to use that. I know I can use that. Like, I won't try and look for like all of the perfect information. I'll just kind of stick with what's going to get me kind of the best return on the email.
And how do you put it towards the prospect in a way that comes across like you are genuinely trying to solve a problem versus just, mentioning something that you've read to show that you've done your research?
Yeah, I think the email fundamentally has to be about them. I don't think that emails, particularly for our product, should really talk about, the way that we solve that problem as much. I think it should kind of be, here's a bit of research that I've done. Here's a similar thing that I've seen with customers like that and problems that tend to come from that. Are you open to a solution like this? Might be something that comes down the line. So kind of really trying to transition that research into a value prop for them or a challenge that they might be facing. That's what I find really, really resonates well with personas.
Okay. And how much is too much? So Kelly, you talked about, looking at anything that is publicly available online. Is it too much to like look at them on Facebook, for example, and mention something that you saw there?
Yeah, it's a good question, and it depends on who you ask, right? If you're asking for my specific opinion, yes, there is a line, absolutely. We have to be mindful of people's privacy. Yes, it's in the public domain, and yes, it's publicly available. But at the same time, I don't want necessarily someone quoting my daughter's name back to me in an email. That hasn't happened. But if it were to happen, you're being blocked immediately. So I think always use a level of common sense. Okay, so yes, if you find an insight that maybe gives you, I'm a huge believer in personality assessment and analysis, and I think there's a long way that you can go with that. And if you use something like Crystal Knows, that will get you X amount of the way to analysing personality. Not everyone has access to that, but some of these insights will give you a little bit of an insight into someone's life. It's not about using them directly. It's about utilising that and using your emotional intelligence to then frame the way you're talking to them in the right way and putting that across. So yes, they are useful, but directly, no.
Okay. And you spoke a lot about tech stacks. This question is for all of you. Have you got any pieces of technology that you absolutely could not live without day to day?
All of them.
I know I spoke about it a bit in my speech, but Vidu is honestly amazing. Like, have a look at the website and just see like the way that it looks. It's such a quick and easy way to stand out in an email and kind of, your face is in it. It looks really personalized. You include their name, and I think it just it makes people just take a second look, because it's not as common. You know, everyone's seen a video, everyone's seen an email, but when it's that kind of style of GIF, it is just really cool. Just give it a go. At the very least, you'll find it really fun, but I don't really send out many emails without one, so it's really good.
Okay. And I think you spoke about personalized gifts. What type of things do you actually send?
So it depends. Like, it depends on the value prop I'm going for. So I've sent a few like kind of gifts focused around like a big headache when it comes to like tax. That's one of our big value props. Or just as simple as like holding up a picture of their website and kind of making a few kind of gestures like towards it, like thumbs up and stuff like that. It just really like is different to all of these other emails that they're getting. It's just that tiny bit of difference.
Mm-hmm. Any other technology that you couldn't live without, guys?
Gone every single
Gone.
day. Yeah, I live in Gone. I think from a team management perspective, it's absolutely the place that's going to give you a huge degree of insight. But as an SDR as well, regardless of where you are in your journey, whether it's right at the beginning, you should be constantly listening to Gone. Like, carve out time in your day to listen to not only your own calls back. Everyone hates the sound of their own voice, right? It's like, I don't sound like that. That's so hard. Like, really? Ugh, how do people even listen to me? But get past that, because actually listening to yourself back, you'll be able to analyze yourself. And if you can get to that point, then you're going to infinitely improve your sort of performance and your scope. And also listen to those people around you as well. Listen to the high performers. What are they doing? Like I said earlier, it's not just about what they're saying, it's how they're saying it. Where are they pausing? What's the intonation? What's the tonality? Of course, the discovery questions are really important, but you need to get past the first 20 or 30 seconds first. So yeah, I think Gong is absolutely invaluable. They haven't paid me to say this, but I absolutely them.
I'm trying to win them as a client at the moment. So if anybody from Gong is on this call, please add me on LinkedIn and let's chat. Any others before I move on to the questions that our audience have asked?
I was just going to say outreach. Like, I've never worked in a job. I mean, Outreach, Sales Loft, one of those kind of tools. I'm assuming most people use one of them. But because this is my first sales role, SDR role, everything, I've never had a job without it. But some of my teammates who haven't had it before are just like, it's a game changer, because you just cannot ad hoc like call people up, be like, oh, I sent you an email like 3 months ago now. Do you want to chat again? Like, it doesn't work. You can't stay on top of everyone, and you just can't do things at scale, I can imagine. You'd have to have one heck of a spreadsheet. So
I've lived without it, Amy, and it was one heck of a spreadsheet. When I joined Spill and I was choosing the tech stack, I was like, no way are we not having either of those. It's not good.
Okay, so we've got a question here from Maria Perlman, which I think is a fantastic question. If you could define the BDR from the future, what would you say would be the 3 most important qualities for the BDR to have?
TQ is number one. Being able to leverage your tech stack is absolutely imperative. We're becoming more sort of part human, part machine as time goes on. Look at that as a possibility rather than being a scary proposition. Think Tony Stark. We should be wearing it like an exoskeleton, our tech stack, and I could wax lyrical about that for hours. But over and above TQ, EQ will always be a forerunner in terms of skill set. And then, of course, it's, for me, all day long, it's work ethic. You've got to be prepared to roll up your sleeves and get really comfortable with monotony as well. That's not necessarily a very popular thing to say, but you're going to be doing similar things day in, day out. The people who really succeed are the people who are like, I'm okay with this process. Like, I know what I'm supposed to do. Yeah, we inject creativity and we have loads of fun with it, but be prepared that you will be doing the same thing every day. And that's what makes a really successful person, in my opinion.
Mm-hmm. What does everybody else think?
I think just kind of building on one of the things you mentioned there, Kelly, about work ethic, I think consistency, like kind of narrowing that down is one of the most important things, not just as a BDR, but as you move up through the chain, even down to, hearing really successful founders and CEOs, just being consistent, keep putting yourself out there, keep trying all these channels, keep doing kind of the day-to-day stuff. I think that's what really will win out as a BDR of the future, and kind of stand out amongst, the other reps and other companies.
I'm just going to interrupt because we've come up to time. It's been an overwhelming response from the audience. So I just want to pass our thanks to Sophie for being an excellent co-host. It really makes my life a lot easier to have someone to do this with. So thank you, Sophie, for
having me,
coordinating and helping organise today's event. And thank you to the Venatrix team for promoting and jointly promoting sales confidence. And then really a round of applause to each of you as speakers. Like, this wouldn't be possible without you. And I'm really grateful for your time and effort. I know some of you are dialing in from different rooms, bedrooms, from different parts of the world to be here today. So thank you very much. Everything's recorded, so it will be uploaded to the Sales Confidence YouTube channel next week, and there will be a follow-up email to everybody. So that is a wrap. Thank you for all your engagement, and thank you everybody again. Cheers.
Thanks so much, guys.
Thanks, bye.
Thank you.